What if literally everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe was only half the story? Welcome to This Explainer. Today we are going to break down a truly fascinating collection of global extraterrestrial claims and unexplained phenomena. Now, rather than trying to prove or disprove anything right out of the gate, we're going to dive straight into the source material objectively. We'll map out the data and the anecdotes to see exactly how all these incredible pieces might fit together. It is going to be quite a journey.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We've got 1. Government disclosures, 2. Encounters beyond space, 3. The Men in Black, 4. Physical evidence, and 5. New frontiers.
Starting right off with Section 1, Government Disclosures and Policies.
According to the source, South America has actually been way ahead of the curve on this. Nations like Chile have been leading the charge since 1997, setting up official committees dedicated entirely to studying these anomalies. In 2014, their military even captured extensive video of a strange rocket-like object they simply couldn't identify. But why are they so open to this when others aren't? Well, researchers in the source argue it's because their rich ancient heritage, like the pre-Inca cultures of Peru and Bolivia, is heavily filled with stories of beings of light descending from the sky. Imagine growing up where sky visitors aren't just sci-fi, but part of your deep cultural history. It definitely makes them more naturally open to these possibilities.
Now contrast that with the dramatic juxtaposition we see in Japan. Historically, Japan maintained a strict policy of complete dismissal and absolute secrecy. Pilots were allegedly instructed to stay totally silent about any bizarre encounters, like seeing cigar-shaped objects messing with their aircraft instruments. But then in 2020, we see this massive pivot. Following a meeting with the U.S. Defense Secretary, Japan's Defense Minister Taro Kono officially mandated his forces to visually record any unexplained craft. That is a literal night-and-day policy shift.
And this brilliantly illustrates our first major turning point. It really makes us ask, is this sudden governmental openness purely about new airspace threats? Or are they subtly preparing the public for a truly anomalous reality that's been historically hidden in the records for decades?
Moving right along to Section 2, Encounters Beyond Space. This timeline outlines a totally mind-bending claim regarding esteemed U.S. naval officer Admiral Richard Byrd. During his 1946 Antarctic expedition, Operation High Jump, a posthumously discovered diary alleges he didn't just fly over the South Pole, he actually flew under it. According to the source, he discovered a lush, temperate inner-Earth civilization complete with a crystal city. Obviously not exactly your standard Antarctic ice expedition, right? Down there, he supposedly met a being called the Master, who expressed a deep, urgent disappointment in humanity's recent use of nuclear weapons. Upon returning, Byrd was allegedly ordered by the government to remain completely silent about the whole shebang.
Building on that theme of strange, highly interactive encounters, we have the famous 1980 Rendlesham Forest incident in England. U.S. servicemen investigating strange lights approached a black triangular craft covered in weird pictorial glyphs. When Sergeant Peniston actually touched the craft, he said the air felt electrically charged and time just seemed to slow down. He claims he received an instantaneous telepathic download of ones and zeros directly into his mind, leaving him with lasting physical effects and haunting dreams for years.
Here is the absolute kicker. When that telepathic binary code was run through a modern translation program years later, it supposedly read, "Exploration of humanity continuous for planetary advance. Origin year 8100. Just think about the implications of that for a second. What if the entities driving these craft aren't extraterrestrials from a distant star system, but are actually human time travelers from our own distant future, coming back to fix some sort of planetary mistake?
That brings us to Section 3, the Men in Black. As these incredible investigations really started deepening in the mid-20th century, the source describes a disturbing pattern of shadowy interference. Take Albert K. Bender, who was running a massive UFO research organization in the early 50s. According to the source, his work came to a crashing, terrifying halt in 1953. Eyewitnesses and Bender's own accounts claim 3 dark, shadowy figures materialized right through his bedroom wall. They wore hats and overcoats, had glowing eyes, and smelled strongly of sulfur. Clearly, we're not talking about slick, suit-wearing government agents here. Through terrifying telepathic warnings, they forced him to abandon his influential UFO research entirely.
The source grounds this highly esoteric concept of the Men in Black not as government feds, but as alleged non-human ringleaders, perhaps even extraterrestrials themselves. Their apparent goal?
to actively suppress the truth by directing these shadow people to psychologically terrorize and derail absolutely anyone getting too close to uncovering the reality of these phenomena.
So we have these bizarre, almost dreamlike psychological encounters that leave people absolutely terrified. But bridging the gap between those experiences and our tangible reality means we have to ask, did these visitors leave behind actual physical evidence we can study?
Let's dig into that in Section 4, Physical Evidence and Anomalies.
The source maps out some incredible physical traces recovered from anomaly hotspots across the entire globe, and the material parallels are striking. Over in Roswell, geologists unearthed tiny, twisted magnesium-zinc fragments with pristine microscopic banding, which they argue looks entirely artificial. Then, halfway across the world in Russia's Ural Mountains, geologists hunting for gold found thousands of microscopic nanospirals made of tungsten and molybdenum. And out in the Pacific, we have the ancient ruins of Nan Madol, constructed from 250 million tons of inexplicable, highly magnetized basalt stone. To put this into perspective, think about the number 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the incredibly high melting point of the tungsten used in those tiny nanospirals found 30 feet underground in Russia. Scientists in the source argue that finding perfectly machined coils made of elements with such high melting points and estimating them to be 50,000 years old based on their depth points directly to artificial aerospace-grade manufacturing. Could this literally be the debris of an ancient probe that crashed millennia before Roswell?
Furthermore, researchers in the source speculate that the massive ruins of Nan Madol represent a deeply misunderstood ancient technology. Every single one of those 250 million tons of basalt logs emits such a strong magnetic field that a compass will just spin wildly if you walk past them. It's speculated that this site was built on a natural electromagnetic vortex, potentially used by ancient beings to transport these massive stones through the air, or maybe even to serve as an extraterrestrial communication portal. Finally, we arrive at Section 5, New Frontiers in Ufology.
Let's explore how modern researchers are combining cutting-edge, outside-the-box concepts to hunt for answers today. Out at the ECETI Ranch in Washington State, a known UFO hotspot, researchers are trying something radically different. They are combining conventional skywatch tracking technology, like infrared cameras, with remote viewing. This is a mind-based intelligence-gathering technique formerly studied by official government programs. The whole idea is to have isolated individuals use only their minds to sense and sketch unseen targets happening in real time.
The explainer details a really crazy experiment conducted on the ranch. As the field team watched the sky, they spotted the International Space Station and, simultaneously, the isolated remote viewers in a windowless room sketched a matching rectangular object. But it gets even crazier. The field team then spotted a mysterious, incredibly fast-moving object that suddenly vanished and which did not show up on any satellite trackers. At that exact moment, the remote viewers were capturing the very same unexplained anomaly on their sketchpads, suggesting this bizarre link between human consciousness and these unidentified craft.
Meanwhile, high up in Canada, the search gets microscopic. Former NASA scientist Dr. Richard Hoover leads an expedition to the Whistler Ice Cave. His research relies heavily on the theory of panspermia. That's the scientific hypothesis that life didn't just randomly start here, but that microbial life actually rained down on Earth from comets or outer space.
Dr. Hoover enthusiastically explains that these massive blue glaciers are basically acting as ancient time capsules. As the glacier eats rocks, tiny pools form around them, creating microscopic planetary systems complete with their own biology and atmospheres. He believes that by taking core samples of this ancient ice, we might find extraterrestrial microorganisms that have been surviving in suspended animation for tens of thousands of years. We're talking about potentially finding the very building blocks of the anomalies we've been discussing.
So, stepping back to look at the massive picture this source has painted for us, from shifting governmental disclosures and telepathic time travel encounters to ancient magnetic ruins and alien microbes frozen in glacial time capsules, we want to leave you with this final thought. If the mysteries of our universe are scattered across all these disparate global anomalies, what is the ultimate truth we are going to discover when humanity finally pieces this grand puzzle together? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and we'll catch you next time.